Men's basketball coach Baker Dunleavy has decided to step down from his position and return back to Villanova. What does this change mean for the Bobcats? And we went out and asked Quinnipiac students who their favorite athlete is. All this and more on Bobcat Breakdown starting right now. Welcome to Studio 125. I'm your host, Ryan Blake. Alongside me are two talented guys who are going to battle it out for one final time, Joey O'Donoghue and Matt Mugno. How you guys feeling tonight?
I'm ecstatic, Matt, to have you on for my final show. And Ryan, we're going to show you the ropes. This is going to be a heated debate.
Listen, there's always a rookie in the Legends final game. Joey, my man, alongside. Listen, it's hard to debate you, but I think I got to say, to close things out here for the Quinnipiac career, one last time ever, Mr. Mugno is in the building.
All right, let's jump right into it. Baker Dunleavy has decided to step down as head coach for the men's basketball team and heads back to Villanova, where it started it all. Joey, you're all about basketball. Let's start with you. Tell me, what's the current state of the team now that Baker has left the picture?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm going to use a word that the kids like to use. It's mid right now, meaning it's not bad, but it's not good either. You know, they're not going to have their leading scorer next year. They're not going to have their third leading scorer in Louis Courtwright, who's transferring. They're not going to have their fourth leading scorer in Ike Nweke. So they might even lose Taimu Shenry as well, who's entered the transfer portal. The offense is going to take a hit. They've already had defensive issues. So the only reason I'm not saying it's a terrible state is just because I think they can bring in some big new recruits. You know, they also have Elijah Taylor, who we didn't get to see this year. That was supposed to be a very talented recruit. You know, look at who they brought in this year for recruits, right? They brought in Otieno. They brought in Nweke. Those two were integral parts of the team's success. That's why they got the 3 seed. Those two were a big part of it. So I trust that Quinnipiac can bring in some big recruits. But if I'm looking at the state right now, you know, I'm not too optimistic about where the state of Quinnipiac men's basketball is.
Now, Joe, there's no doubt. Listen, I may have won the 2022 co-ed intramural championship as a roster player, but I do not know basketball. I don't have the intellect that you have. I do know some, right? But Quinnipiac, what gives you faith about bringing recruits? Now, Ike Nweke was him this season, right? But another failure in the postseason. Now, talking about like where the state it's at, definitely not good, mid, but they're not a team that's making a run in the NCAA tournament, right? So what gets them there? Are they mid for the MAC, or are they mid in the grand sphere of college basketball?
That's the state of Quinnipiac men's basketball right now.
Yeah.
Mid. But I do think that, you know, we can't totally write this team off. You know, they got Pecora to slide into that head coach role right away. Savion Lewis is going to come back. He's an incredible passer. I've watched him play for a few years now, and I think he can man that role. They're still going to have Otieno. Like, they'll have guys, right? So I'm not totally out on them. Just kind of middle of the pack is where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Like, I think not good. Like, mid is right, but I think it all depends on what comes next. Taimu Shenry, I think just a few hours ago, committed to Binghamton University. So,
there you go.
like, he's gone. He's out of the portal. He went through the portal and he ended up somewhere else. So I think it really comes down to who can they bring in, because it's kind of left in a tough spot. Like, Dunleavy really left us in a tough spot.
Yeah, there's no doubt they're definitely in an interesting spot. Former Hofstra and Fordham head coach Tom Pecora has been named the next head coach for the men's basketball team. Matt, what direction does he need to take next year in order to make a statement with this program?
Listen, you saw how the New York Knicks are constructed, right? It's team play. Like, Julius Randle's no star. Now, granted, we're comparing apples and oranges with professional ball and college ball, but you got to build culture. You got to have discipline. You have to have a team emphasis and recruit like heck in the offseason. We just mentioned recruit like heck. You need to bring assets in. You need to build a culture, and it starts day one. It starts every practice. I think what happened in the Dunleavy era was they were going I guess the distance, you could say, like they were competing, but they weren't really playing that well. Like, they had these assets that didn't look a little bit disjointed. I think they need to build a culture. There has to be a buy-in. Like, literally, Rand said it every single game, and it's something that for the men's hockey team who won the championship this year for men's ice hockey, like, it's the same deal. You have to come in, it's the same compete. You're playing with the team unit. It should be working like fine motor. It shouldn't be, This game we saw the big Fairfield match. They smoked Fairfield, and then they're a postseason upset, just a few weeks later. So granted, that's the nature of sports, but at the same time, I do think it starts within the building. Like, what's the team construct like? It's not necessarily about how they're performing as individual assets and their skills, but it's how that comes together and builds into a big product.
Yeah, that's not a bad take. But to me, he's got to emphasize defense. That killed the Bobcats this year. Opposing guards were tearing them up inside. And I know I talked about a lot of the scorers that are leaving, but they have guys that can get buckets, right? Matt Belanc is just a pure scorer. Otieno had a stretch where he was averaging double figures for multiple games in a row. Like, they have guys that can score, but the defense has always killed them. And so Pecor is going to need to emphasize that, if anything. You look at their most recent losses, too, right? There's always a guy that had 20-plus points. Even that big upset you talked about in the first round of the tournament, 2 guys went for 20-plus. It was Gardner and Brickner, who had 21 and 22 points apiece. So Pecor's really got to get his guys to lock in defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're just going to get carved up by the best guards in the MAC every year.
I think that fits into that team culture. I think the team buying on defense, too. Like you're saying, I do see what you're saying, that defense is the number one emphasis, but I think it starts within the locker room, the buy-in. Every guy on the court has to buy into that team defense, and if they don't do that, if they're not really bought in, yeah, they could shoot all day, but if they're shooting the lights out and they're not playing defense, you're going to lose games.
Yeah. Also, can he emphasize free throw shooting? I mean, they had the second worst free throw percentage in the MAC. They got to score from the line.
You win and you lose at the free throw.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's going to be a new look for the team next year. Switching from the hardwood to the ice hockey season for both men and women's has come to an end, with a historic year for both teams. Joey, give us your all-star lineup.
All right, I'm a big hockey guy now, Matt. You ready for this?
Yeah, that's right. That's right, you are.
Here's who we got. Colin Graff, Sam Lipkin, Olivia Mobley. Those are my forwards. Then, the defensemen, Zach Metza, Kendall Cooper. And in net, undoubtedly, is Yanni Peretz. I don't think we'll have much debate there. So, Graff, third in the nation in points, right?
Mm-hmm.
He led the men's hockey team in goals, assists, and points. No debate there for me. Pair him with Sam Lipkin again, who's got an incredible passing ability, right? Second on the team in points and assists behind Colin Graff. They proved to be lethal together. They're going to be lethal together on my squad. Olivia Mobley leading her team in points and assists as well, tied for second in goals. Then we go into my defenseman here. Zach Metza has got the second best plus-minus on the roster, plus 34, only behind Jacob Quillen, and he is the captain, my captain. And then Kendall Cooper. I think she is the best two-way defenseman on that women's ice roster, right? She's got 17 assists. That's tied most out of any defenseman on the team. She has scored 6 goals, 23 points, which is more than any other defenseman on the roster as well. So, not to mention the 26 block shots to her name. And then, of course, Yanni Peretz. No debate, I don't think. He's literally led the nation in goals against average, and it's been phenomenal to watch. So, that's my all-star hockey lineup. What do you got?
I'll start with the crease out to Yaniv, no doubt. And then we go to the defensemen. Metza and Boyd. I went with both captains here because they both play this very similar style of play. I think Boyd, great two-way weapon. Like you brought up the two-way game. I think Cooper definitely is more of an emphasis on that, but I like the way Boyd quarterbacks a power play, workhorse on defense. You need that balance, that counterbalance, because Metza can jump into the play, jump in on offense. I mean, the captain, Zach Metza, 3 assists in the championship game. No other guy you'd want to lead the way. Scored the backbreaker against Michigan as well. I have Graff and Mobley as well. You brought up all the accolades Graff picked up this year. I think what I want to add to that is how he jumped from 22 points as a Union Dutchman and lost in the quarterfinal the year before. And then he's a national champion the next year. The work and the exponential growth for Colin Graff has been tremendous to see, and he's coming back next year as a junior. For Jacob Quillen down the middle, though, I have him as my center because Lipkin's a great playmaker on that flank, but I think Quillen had one of the best postseasons in NCAA history. 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points. He killed it, knocked it out of the park, and no one really expected this from any of these guys, but I thought out of the 3 on that York Hill boys line, Quillen really blew up in the postseason. I did not expect to see that from him. And Olivia Mobley, I mean, her stride, you see the way she drives play up center ice, is able to cut across, is able to fly up the wing. I think she would be a perfect complement on that championship team. Like if she wanted on the men's team tomorrow, I'd be like, put her on the men's team.
No, I hear you. I mean, I personally would take Lipkin over Quillen, but you look at Zoe Boyd, right? And I'm a fan of Zoe Boyd's game, of course, but Kendall Cooper, more assists than her, more goals than her. more points than Boyd. So I think clearly you have to slot in Cooper, right? Why not?
I think the key for keeping Boyd in the lineup is 1, more leadership from the back end. 2, I love the way she quarterbacks. Like, workhorse, keeps her legs going, drives play, and she makes the smart plays in her own D and behind the net, starting play 200 feet down ice to get it all the way up ice.
Yeah, there's no doubt this is a season to remember for both teams, for sure. Hitting the baseball field, Quinnipiac scored 46 runs this past weekend, including a staggering 24 on Friday against Iona. Matt, was it more of the offensive production for the Bobcats or the lackluster pitching by Iona?
I think it's a little bit middle of the road. Not bad. I think the last 10 scores versus opponents, they're up 99-75. Iona pitching isn't great. They gave up 46 runs, but KU stats at the bat. 783 team OPS, 194 runs, 28 homers, 5th in the MAC in hits, 4th in the MAC in home runs. So I think the Quinnipiac baseball team is benefiting from hot bats, but I also think their pitching has been the reason that they have a losing record. Like, I think the bats are there, the offense, they're very similar to the basketball team. But I do think that their pitching has caused the team to struggle a little bit.
Matt, to me, this is all on Iona. Quinnipiac has scored 15-plus runs one time outside of the series on the season, right? All of a sudden, they do that twice in 3 games. So, to me, that says that Iona has terrible pitching, right? And they had a lot of pitching woes. You look at the game on Friday where Quinnipiac scored 27. Iona rotated through 7 different pitchers in that game, and all of them were pretty poor. I mean, it wasn't too impressive to me. Obviously, credit to the Bobcats for scoring as much as they did, but I think a lot of teams in the MAC would have been knocking those baseballs out of the park. And even John Delaney, after the game in the press conference, he was unhappy with the pitching, which you sort of talked about, right? Like, Bobcats still gave up 10 runs in that blowout victory. So it wasn't like the most impressive series that I've seen out of them. And then they drop game 2 to one of the bottom teams in the MAC. And that, to me, kind of shows, right? Like, Iona's pitching was better in that game. All of a sudden, they limit Quinnipiac to 6 runs, and they win the game. So, to me, this offensive outburst was just about Iona having such poor pitchers. And, even the game, they mercy ruled Iona. But the 4 pitchers Iona used, let me read off some of their ERAs. So one of them, Alex Hunt, his ERA on the season is about 9. Tyler Lender, his ERA on the season is about 11.74. And then Gavin Bates has a whopping 108 earned run average on the season. I mean, that's incredibly bad. So Iona's pitching woes, they just kept rotating and rotating through these guys. And to me, it says more about the Gales than it did the Bobcats in that series.
Yeah, for sure. It was a chaotic baseball weekend. It's time to take our first break of the night, but don't go anywhere as Joey, Matt, and myself hit the quad and ask Quinnipiac students who their favorite athlete on campus is. We'll be right back.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life, but how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have prediabetes, a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, but more than 80% don't know they have it. The good news is, prediabetes can be reversed, and for many people, healthy changes in their daily routine can make a big difference. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
I was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's put a ride home.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back, everyone. It has been an all-time year for Bobcat Athletics, and today, the three of us hit the quad and asked Quinnipiac students who the best athlete is and why. Roll the tape. What's going on, everyone? I'm Ryan alongside Matt and Joey, and today we hit the quad to ask our fellow students who the best athlete on campus is. Let's get to it.
I'm here with Sam, and I got a question for you. Who is the best athlete on campus this year?
Jacob Quillen.
I actually think Colin Graff was the best overall athlete of all our athletics. He transferred from Union and set school records that will probably hold for a very long time.
Right, all-timer. He tied the points record, right? I mean, baller.
I would say Yanni Vargoli for hockey.
Jaden Lee with his amazing defensive skill.
Now we're here in the Student Center to find out who people thought the best athlete on campus was this year.
The best player for me to watch on campus this year was women's soccer player Rebecca Cook.
Rebecca let her cook.
That's right.
Yanni Peretz, undoubtedly. I mean, leading the nation in goals against average, but a close runner-up, I'd say, is Rebecca Cook. She led the nation in goals, led Quinnipiac to a MAC title, and to the NCAA tournament.
All right, thank you so much.
After hearing what everyone had to say, Joey, who was the best player you had the opportunity to cover on campus this year?
All right, let me preface this with one thing. So I was talking to producers before the show, right? And I said, I want to talk soccer on my final show. They said, Joey, you can't talk soccer. It's spring, no one cares about it. Well, I'm going to talk soccer because the obvious answer to this question is Rebecca Cook. She led the nation in goals. She led the nation in points. 22 goals this year, 51 points. That's remarkable. And she might not even be a forward naturally. I saw her play right back this year too. I mean, you talk about a soccer player that can literally play all the way up the pitch or all the way back on defense. That's versatility. That's a once-in-a-lifetime talent to watch. And so getting to cover her this year was just an unbelievable experience. And literally every single women's soccer program in America, Matt, she scored more goals than every other player out there. That, to me, was the best I saw all year.
You know what, Joey? Rebecca let her cook. Good take. I went with a completely different angle. I won't preface nothing, though. Christophe Tellier.
Oh,
You're
boy.
probably wondering, wow, where did that one come from? 8 goals on the season? Well, this is a player that last season only had 3 assists. He was virtually a nobody on the Quinnipiac men's ice hockey roster. And yet, he scores in the national title game. This is a guy coming into the season that's playing with one of his best buddies on the team, speaks French, didn't mold right away in the locker room, and now he steps in, scoring in the biggest moments for the team on their way to a national championship. Rebecca Cook moved from positions right, was an absolute horse, but at the same time, when that clutch play needed to happen, was Rebecca Cook there at Penn State? I don't think so. So I'm going to go with Christophe Tellier. A third liner on that Sherbrooke boys line with Chinesky in there. They were some grinders. They were like the Mario Brothers, their own little thing. But every time there was a big moment and they needed him, he stepped up, and that came out of the blue. So I think best, I'm going to go Christophe Tellier.
Matthew Mugno. He's not even the best player on the team. Never mind. Never mind the best athlete you saw all
listen,
year.
what did I say? Rebecca Cook, where was she against Penn State?
Mugno, you tried playing one of the best women's college soccer programs in the entire nation.
That's what Tellier did 3 times. He played Michigan with Adam Fantilli, Minnesota with the top line in college hockey, you know?
That's the difference, though. Cook was carrying her squad, leading the entire nation in goals, right? You have to play one of the best programs. But hold on, we got to talk about this just real quick. at least pick like Yanni Peretz, like some of our faithful Bobcat students had said, right?
Listen, Yanni is for another answer.
Now, Matt, you've had the opportunity, and Joey as well. You've been here for 4 years, so you've got the experience. Who's the best player that you've had the opportunity to cover here at your time at Quinnipiac?
I think it's Yanni Peretz. Wow, what a surprise. Listen, Christophe Tellier, I'm going to say the best this year, Joe. I'm gonna look you dead in the eyes when I say that, but Yanni Peretz all time. I mean, this stat line is absolutely insane. Career record, 56, 9, and 5. I mean, that's like 5 times the amount of losses and wins. 935 and a 134 goals against average, 2023 ECAC Goaltender of the Year. National champion, now going on for his NHL aspirations in the AHL to professional level. You know what, Joey? I know you have an answer, so I'm going to follow up with my next one, but I want to know another question quick. So,
all right. Well, it's not a bad pick, Mugno, but we're talking
not bad.
All 4 years. And I'm going to say one that I don't think the youngins in this room know too well. Mackenzie DeWeese. In her prime, she was her.
In her prime.
She made the All-MAC first team twice. She was the MAC Player of the Year as a junior. So not even talking about the best Bobcat that year, but literally the best player in the entire conference. She took home that award. She could do everything on the court. I mean, watching her was phenomenal. Her senior year, she was averaging almost 14 points, 7.3 rebounds, 3.3 steals. That was ranked 5th in the nation that year. 3.1 assists per game. I mean, she had 8 double-doubles as well. The year before that, 4 double-doubles. You talk about versatility and someone who puts their heart out every single game. Mackenzie DeWeese was amazing to watch all 4 years. Of course, 1,000-point club for her as well. Getting to watch her was phenomenal. And that year, she tallied 106 steals. That was the first time that any Quinnipiac player got over 100 in a season since Felicia Barron did in 2012 during the 2013 season. We got to witness that, Mugno. It was phenomenal. DeWeese was an all-around superstar.
You know what the great thing about DeWeese and Peretz was they were also great people off the court and off the ice. Like the best. You could not get better. Now, I have a question, though. Is Yanni Peretz the greatest Quinnipiac athlete of all time? The greatest. You look at the accolades, you look at the statistics, great guy off the ice. I mean, DeWeese we could argue as well, but she doesn't have the ring, right? So do you think he might be the greatest Quinnipiac athlete of all time?
He's phenomenal, but I couldn't say all time. You know, we got a lot of guys that went far. Obviously, Cam Young going to the G League, that's pretty impressive. Odin Tufto, little hockey guy for you too. You know, there's a lot of Bobcats that have gone further and further. I don't think we could call Peretz all time. I mean, what do you think?
Not all time, not even top 5, not even top 3.
Oh, he's top, but he's not the GOAT.
He's top. I think he's the GOAT. I'm gonna go and say he's the GOAT now before anyone else does.
Wow.
Maybe he will be.
Both fantastic picks. It's time to take our final break of the night. But when we return, Joey and Matt will give their final roars. We'll be right back.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jules, spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working. I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Welcome back. Joey and Matt, you guys have had the opportunity to call many games for QBSN together. With your time in student media coming to an end, let's take a listen to one of your electric calls.
Dominant victory by the Bobcats today. They pulled away They really won the shots on goal battle 36-15, and they finished this one a 5-2 victory. But as you said, bigger things on the rise for this Bobcats team. Yeah, they clinched the Cleary Cup, but that's not the cup that they want to clinch just yet, right? They've got bigger aspirations, bigger goals, and I really think this year is the year that they do it.
Can we see the Bobcats go to the national championship? That's the question Joey and I will be asking.
It's time for Final Roars. I'll start us off this time. As my first time on desk comes to a close, I'd like to start by thanking everyone involved for running a great show, not just tonight, but all year long. I've been either in the control room or manning a camera throughout this year, and being around people like Matt and Joey have been so valuable to me when it comes to learning new tricks and trades, and it has definitely been something to look forward to every Tuesday. And what better time to be involved than right now? Athletics are obviously hotter than they have ever been, and Quinnipiac's media department is on fire when it comes to content. It is time to hop on the bandwagon if you haven't already and get involved in student media organizations on campus. And for the 2 stars of the show, Joey, I'd like to thank you for all the help and tips you've given me in the control room. I'm sure whatever comes next will be a home run. And shout out to Matt on all your success through your time here, and for providing a hockey call that will be replayed long after you've walked the stage on graduation day. There aren't too many people that are better to look to in terms of taking advantage of opportunities here at Quinnipiac than you guys. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to reflect on what student media has meant to me. I committed to Quinnipiac amidst a polar time in my life. Graduating high school, my father was very sickly from cancer. My decision hung on 2 simple interests: the school at a D1 hockey team and a film program. That was it. As a freshman, it was a lot easier to be amongst this new social frontier. I was caught in that lifestyle hook, line, and sinker. I attended nearly every home hockey game as a fan, and part of me desired to pursue opportunities with that. Instead, I declared a film major, and just when I acted on the aspirations to cover the hockey team, the pandemic happens. That wiped out the next year too. Last fall, I faced mental health issues and wasn't sure what was next for me. As the last kick of the can, I found my way to Q30 and QBSM meetings. They changed my career path. I met people with the same goals and passion. In a time where I had no belief in myself, others saw my potential. I thought the time sacrifice meant my friends wouldn't be around, that I couldn't partake as a fan, or have time to go on a date. Since I began in student media, I realized how separate those identities were. This is me. I've always been a late bloomer. I couldn't speak until I was 3. I couldn't read until the end of the 1st grade. I didn't start skating until I was in the 6th grade. I wasn't over 100 pounds until I was a freshman in high school. Yet, I write a piece a day for QBSN, and I called the national championship in Tampa. It took a lot of work to climb to the summit. The vision I see is sitting myself down as a child and myself last year and telling them where I've gone and what I've accomplished. None of that is achieved without the people here who have helped the work of fellow students to run these organizations arguably provided more positive experiences at Quinnipiac than the classroom. It has been a great pleasure this year to be in the position to help the next guys in line. Their energy and the excitement they bring, coupled with positive experiences and guidance, is what sets them up to take over. Someone's got to take the throne. Thank you to everyone here and my family who supported me. It was a short run, and I wish I had more time now. It's an honor to see the lives I've touched and for those that have impacted mine. Farewell, Q30.
For my final roar, it's time to reflect on all the great memories over the years in student media and what it's meant to me. I had always wanted to be a sports commentator. When I found out about QBSN, I met with Hannah Smith, executive producer of this very show, and she talked to me for hours about what I was getting into. I asked so many questions. I didn't want it to be too big of a commitment, but I went for it. And it ended up being the biggest commitment of my college experience. Fast forward to my first ever broadcast. I was by myself. It was a women's soccer game that I called alone in the media suite for my first ever call. My heart was racing when the broadcast manager, Jonathan Banks, told me I'd be alone. It felt like the biggest deal in the world to me, and I had a blast. Banks checked in with me during and after the call, which meant so much to me at the time. I'll never take those moments for granted. And it made me strive to have an impact on everyone I could. After doing multimedia for tennis that year and broadcasting from the media suite, I later found myself traveling to upstate New York to commentate the volleyball playoffs. I've done play-by-play on ESPN+, I've conducted live interviews on ESPN+, I traveled up to Vermont to call a soccer NCAA tournament game, And I called the eventual National Hockey Championships with the guy to my left, Matt Mugno. And this year, I served as QBSN's broadcast manager. I hope I made everyone feel good this year. If I could shine a positive light or build you up one day, then I feel my job was done right. And though my experiences have been amazing, the best part of it all has truly been the people. Walking into the media suite every day and seeing my friends' faces light up, sharing laughs and moments that we'll never forget, this place feels like home. But now I have to move. I'll miss everyone dearly. I'll cherish the memories I've made with all of you, and I want to stay in touch and come back one day to visit. I hope everyone I've met here does amazing things. You're all so talented, and I thank you for embracing me and making my college experience better. Sincerely, Joey O.